I'm your host, Nosheen. Today my guest is Sofia Cann, who works within the arts, media and broadcast industry and runs a marketing and communications consultancy, Cann Communications.
Hi, thanks for having me. Thanks for inviting me.
Hello, it's always a pleasure to be speaking with you. Tell us, I guess, a little bit about yourself and your background, Sofia. Did you always have a passion for communications and marketing?
So I studied criminology as my degree at Teesside University, great university. And then I was given an option to study forensic investigation as my master's, so I did. And I loved it, it was great. But all of my part-time work throughout university, where you just want a bit of extra money, don't you? So I think it started with handing out leaflets for like bars and clubs. It was like, yeah, I can do that. So I did that, and then just got chatting to a lot of people. And then one of the owners of the business said, do you want a marketing role? And I thought, I think my brother does marketing, or he studied it, and I don't quite know, I don't quite get it. So like a lot of people say, don't they, when you say I do marketing communications, and they're like,
what is that?
What is it? What do you actually do? So that was me back then. So when I left university, I had this, I did actually go and do a placement at a prison. I did the prison work and thought, oh, I'm really missing the marketing, communications, PR. So I went back, got my old job back, and I think it just went from there, really. I thought I'll get back to policing like five years or something, and then I just ended up in the arts and working with more incredible people on really exciting projects.
So tell me, I guess, a little bit about the kind of policing experience. Like, how was that? Because that's quite unconventional for South Asians, in particular South Asian women, right? So what was that like? Like, what was the experience like? And how was your kind of support network? Like, did you get support from your family?
My dad was great. My dad, I'm very lucky, because when I went to school, I realised a lot of girls, going into their teens, just for me, just vanished. And then when I asked, there was one of my friends who did say, oh, do you not have to do that? We're going to get married. I'm going to get married. And I thought, no. And I remember getting really upset, and I went home and I said to my dad, are you going to take me away and get me married? And he just said, look around, which one of your siblings did we go and get married off? Which one? And I looked around and thought, oh yeah, none. My dad reassured me that it's a really good job, you should go and do it. So I had him championing me.
Tell me a bit more about your kind of career in broadcasting and in the arts industry, and also setting up your own consultancy. How did that come about, that opportunity come about?
Straight after university, I ended up working with DJs, and quite well-known ones, and it was quite a lot of fun. You get to fly out to places like New York with them, and
oh my goodness,
and just promoting them. It was brilliant. It was great being a part of that. I got my first job as an assistant at the Media Museum in Bradford. It was exciting, and getting to work on huge festivals with incredible people that you'd seen, on the telly or in film and stuff. I did get starstruck quite a bit, but that sort of wore off later when it just became the norm. So that's where it started. And then since then, I've moved around. Like I was promoted within the organisation, and I loved it. And then I was covering a maternity role, a senior one, and obviously they were coming back, and she was lovely, and I was really torn. I was like, I really like this manager, but I don't want to go back to my old role. Yeah. So then I started to work in theatres, a really fast pace. So I worked at various theatres, York Theatre Royal, West Shropshire Playhouse, it's now Leeds Playhouse, and then Square Chapel Arts Centre, where I have just left, fresh, after 7 years, because again, I was doing all of my freelance work, because all the people that I was meeting throughout my jobs were asking, like, oh, do you take on anyone on a freelance basis as a publicist? So I was like, Google publicist.
What is that?
I was like, yeah, that's what I do. So I took on a few people, And then lots of other things came from that, and it snowballed again, where it's become an amazing network, and it's grown and grown. And I thought, I can't do a full-time job, be a police volunteer, which is what I was as well, and do this freelance work. It's all fun and it's all great, but I just won't have time for anything.
Yeah, there's only so many hours in the day, isn't there? And you need to like have that balance. And I guess throughout that journey, it just seems like everything's just fitted in like a bit of a jigsaw for you, which is fantastic. And I always think, and I believe as well, that everything happens for a reason. But is there anyone in particular that you've admired, like, I guess, during your career journey or earlier on in your career?
So Asif, I really admire him from a comms perspective. And then the other people are mainly from other sectors. For me, a huge influence has been Graham Park, who, to be honest, has kind of come along on that journey with me. So I met him when I was at university, and we used to put on gigs, and he was the one there. And it's awful that he knows this story, but I didn't know who he was, and everyone was getting really excited. You know, I was new to that world. And everyone was like, oh, you know, I've got Graham Park coming. So I was like, oh, great, but get really excited. So when we got there, I actually thought he was the roadie. And I was like, when's this guy turning up then? And he went, what do you mean?
It's me.
It's me. And I think I remember saying, oh my God, you look like Phil Collins. But do you know what? He's so down to earth. And then we stayed in touch from there. What I love about him and why he inspires me is, I always thought you have to have this focus, and it's like, this is my journey, and that's what I want to get at the end, and that's who I want to be at the end. And his is like zigzag. He's like, you know, started as this DJ, worked in record shops, started as a DJ, and then, you know, he's doing like university lecturing, and he's presenting a radio show, and it's like he constantly reinvents himself.
Have you faced any stereotypes, you know, whilst, I guess, doing your volunteering in the police kind of sector, or also in, I guess, communications, marketing and arts and etc.?
Yes. So at school, there was 3 of us with the same name in the class. So one got a different spelling and a slightly different pronunciation. One got to keep the original name, and I got given Sophie. And I remember it just stuck.
Was that with teachers or just?
Yeah.
Like,
that was a teacher.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Well, I didn't know. You're only a kid. You don't know that's wrong.
Yeah, that is shocking.
So it really stuck. And then, like, even at home, like, everyone started to say it around me. I got my GCSE results on it. I got all my qualifications in that name, and then, you know, everything, passport, everything. And then I remember it got to a point where I was going to university, and, you know, you need your bank accounts and all that sort of stuff. We had issues. So my dad was like, well, it's probably easier to just change your name officially. And I was like, okay. So we did it.
Oh my goodness.
So that's what I was known. So I remember me and my dad going to the solicitors and signing everything. And then I went to university, and that's who I was. And then it was only, I think it was 5 or 6 years ago. And I started my job at Square Chapel. And I remember somebody saying, oh, and I used to get this all the time. Oh, you're not who I thought you'd be, you know, when you spoke to them on the phone, or.
Yeah.
And you go, what do you mean? And I'd heard it before, and I just thought, well, just act dumb. It's like, what do you mean?
Yeah. And
so,
oh God.
Oh, you know, I just didn't think that you were, and they couldn't quite work out. So they'd go, oh, I didn't know you were. I said, what, Asian? Or, you know, and then they go, well, I don't know, because you could have been Spanish, or. And I said, it's just my name.
Yeah.
It's just my name. Oh, and then I think that was like the last time I thought, I'm sick of this. Yeah. So I had a chat with my husband, and I said, it's going to be weird for you because you've only known me as Sophie, but I want to go back to my original name. And he was like, oh, it's beautiful. I don't know why you changed it. So I explained to him, and I changed it back. So I went, paid for it, changed it back, rolled it out. And I'll tell you what, I'm glad I did it, because it's it's just that whole thing as well, reconnecting with your roots and things like
identity.
that. But, oh my God, they're completely different experiences.
So basically, your school teachers, when you were that young, changed your name, and then you ended up having all these documents that are needed for identification reasons.
Yeah.
That had this new name on there, and then you struggled, like, I guess when you got to university, and then had to change it officially by depot, pay for it.
Yeah.
And then go through all of that, where people were basically questioning your identity just because of your, that is, oh my God, shocking.
It is. And it's only as an adult you realise, wow, that's completely out of order. Yeah, so I went back to that, to my name, and I can tell you that doors have closed.
Really?
Yeah. And to one point where, you know, where I said, so basically, I won't name names, but in one of my roles, I remember talking to somebody on the phone. So he was someone that, an external person that worked with the company. And I would talk to him on the phone, and he'd go, oh, you're so lovely. What, you know, you're so helpful. What's your name? So I'd go, Sofia Cann. And he's like, brilliant. Cann's unusual. And I was like, yeah, it's C-A-N-N. It's my husband's surname. And then when I changed my name, I remember sending him an email, and he called me and said, where's that other woman gone? And I was just about to say that it's me. And he went, where's that other woman gone? You're rubbish, and I prefer her. So I said, oh, can I ask why? And he just went, what would you know about classical music? So he was bringing this classical music. And I said, have you ever asked me? Like, you know, because I do listen to classical music. And I have a really good friend who works at one of the radio stations that covers it. And then he just went, it was like, well, I don't want to work with you. I want to work with someone else. And I just thought, oh my goodness. And then he made an actual racist comment about the color of my skin, despite never meeting me. And I said to him, if you just stop for breath, and let me tell you, I'm actually the same person. I was using my alias for years, and I've gone back to my original name. That's the only difference. Because he thought I was, because he was like, it's interesting how you've got the same surname, but he kept calling it Cann.
Oh, okay.
And honestly, and the whole office were like, when I put the phone down, the whole office just applauded, and they were like, we heard all of that. And I said, that's insane. That was just an insane conversation.
That's such a horrible experience, but I feel like that is such an inspiring story for someone who may be starting out in their career and listening to this, and hopefully will be able to understand that it's okay to be yourself. Like, no one else should be able to stereotype you. I know that we've had chats previously, and you've mentioned about rediscovering like your roots and your culture and your faith. So I just really want to I guess, discuss this a little bit more. Like, how did this journey start for you in terms of like rediscovering all of that?
So for me, it was when we lost my dad, and it was just trying to understand what he was going through, what he felt, all that sort of stuff, and then comforting. So like, I discovered something really beautiful on Twitter. I always get, you know, I've always known that there's a saying or a prayer for every aspect of your life. And then I saw this tweet, and they did an amazing thread. You know, if you're grieving, say this. If you need comfort, and you're basically turning to people and it's not working, it's not helping, say this. So, and there was just everything. And so when you're going through whatever emotional situation, there is something, and you instantly find that comfort.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've started to learn Arabic. I've always tried to pick it up.
Even though like I only started like praying in my mid-20s, properly, like I had to self-teach myself again, like have the prayer book there, and, you know, have all the actions there and things.
Yeah.
But like even now, like sometimes certain things, I can't just bring my tongue around to just getting them right. Even though I've like read Arabic and, you know, the Quran, basically like a page here or there throughout my life. So it's really nice having it in English, translate it and just read it, and I love that.
Because that wasn't a thing, was it?
No.
When it definitely wasn't a thing when I was a child. And I remember I used to say, yeah, but what am I reading? And they would teach it, and then there'd be a room full of kids, and you just think, I'm never going to learn this. And then by the end of it, you're reciting, and you're like,
I know.
How did I do that?
But you don't even understand it, right? It's like,
and that was the thing for me.
Explaining that to people, like sometimes I'll explain it to my, non-Muslim friends. I'll say, oh, but I can read Arabic, but I don't understand it or speak it, but I can read it. But I can't even write it. They're like, what do you mean? Like, what is that? And I'm like, I don't know. But the thing is, our parents didn't really communicate that to us either. I feel like that communication gap was always there. And now that I've got like a 5-year-old, I'm really conscious. So when she starts going to like mosque, or even when she prays with me sometimes, like pretends, I try to explain the reasons behind it, because I think that is so important.
It is. I think, to be honest, it was at my dad's funeral where people were reciting prayers and doing all of the movements, and I mean, you can copy and you're always on a little bit of a delay, but my mouth wasn't moving because I don't know what they were saying, and I just thought, this is so bad, I'm an adult, I should know this. So I started, and I think with work and things like that, it always slipped. So now I'm fully freelance. I'm more dedicated to it.
Thank you for sharing that with us. And I guess, what advice would you give to anyone who's looking to start their career as a publicist, in marketing, or the arts industry?
I would say be open to opportunities, really strong communication with people. It's not just about writing a press release and sending it out. It's more about your relationships with people and how you build those, and being really creative.
Oh, amazing. Some fantastic tips there. And I'm going to now ask you a couple of questions, just a few fire round questions, I guess, just for our listeners to get to know you a little better. So the first one would be, what movie or song sums up your life?
Oh, I can't pick one song. But do you know what? Actually, I do know the movie, and because when I say it, people think that's a bit weird. Is Arrival. It was it's a bit sci-fi alien, but the metaphor for it is incredible, because it's about language, and we've talked a lot about language. It's so important to me because, being of our culture, heritage, and you're going to learn English, Arabic, Urdu, Punjabi, there's so much going on, and one little word with a different abbreviation or something can change a whole sentence, and that is pretty much, for me, what that film is saying. So for me, that really hit home, because it was like, God, if we all just took the time to communicate, the whole thing with colour, race, we're the same, talk to us.
Less assumptions, more communication.
Yeah.
And what would people not know about you by just looking at you?
I have OCD. I've had a couple of blips in my life where it has taken over, but generally, I do, like, some people find me strange, and I used to be really embarrassed of it. I do often go to therapy when I think the triggers are there, and I'll go and get some support, because it's just a reminder of how to deal with it. But I also use that. I always get told that I work forensically, and I never used to understand that, but I do now. I probably channel my OCD into a way to, like, go into the work and get all detailed on that. So I'm not, it's still there. There'll always be that thing buzzing around, but I'm channeling it into something else. So I find new ways to do things. So I take it as a compliment now when people say, you work forensically. It's like, that's great, because I used to go, what? No, what are you saying? Like, that's really, and I'd get a real complex about it.
No, I love that answer. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Well, thank you again for such a great, fantastic interview. I'm sure the listeners of BTS Nosheen are going to really enjoy this episode. And how can people connect with you?
Any of the socials, I'm on Twitter at Sofia Cann 1, and then off that one is my freelance Twitter account, and LinkedIn, just type in my name. And my contact details are on my website, which is canncommunications.com.
For our listeners, you'll find this podcast on Spotify, Apple, and also YouTube. And you can also follow me on Instagram at BTS Nosheen. And please do leave a review or a rating. And thanks again, Sophia. Thank you so much for being a guest today. Really enjoyed speaking with you.